Got him! Got him!
The last of the old maps, the last of the old footage. Today is the day that we can finally put the old maps to rest and we can switch over to the new HD looking pretty super shiny, ooh, lick it with a spoon maps. We start off straight away with a map that has been abolished, I'd like to say, from all the tanks. I don't think this map Stalingrad will be coming back. However, this is the Type 4, which is still in the game as it is. Playing it with a 600 Alpha AP gun. This was one of the last games that I had to play with the AP gun before unlocking the oh so fun, unbalanced, please Wargaming remove it, high explosive naval gun. I hate the Type 4 and the Type 5 heavy for the pure fact that they don't have to aim. You don't have to really aim for weak spots to still do damage. So I got the Type 4 and I'm going to get the Type 5 myself. If you cannot beat them, join them. If you gaze into the scope gazes back. I have become what I hate, a Type 4 player. I don't love the Type 4. I will never love the Type 4. It is more of the fact that I can stop using my brain and still have a good game in this tank. With the derp gun, when I was using the 600 Alpha gun, the good games became more far in between from each other. Every maybe 10th game I would do more than 4,000 damage. It is the derp that really makes and breaks this tank. It is shocking to see. I remember when these Japanese heavies came out and I was like, they are shit. Never mind, I will not touch them with a 10-foot pole. And many other people thought this when the Type 5 came out. It was one of the single worst tier 10 heavy tanks. The armor was atrociously bad. The 600 Alpha gun had the reload speed literally of that of a battleship. It was a bad tank. And Wargaming doesn't quite understand digital. It is binary for Wargaming. It's 1 or 0. Is the Type 5 is shit or the Type 5 is the most overpowered tank in all the tanks? We haven't seen a middle ground yet. And you can bring that middle ground by doing two things. You either nerf the armor or you nerf the gun. But what Wargaming did was nerf the armor, but not really. They added, in quotation marks, weak spots. They removed 10mm of the hatches in the front, which are still 240 or 50mm thick. Thanks, Wargaming. Well, there's a couple of reasons why I am showing this replay in particular. One, it was a very good game with the 600 Alpha gun, pretty much the best one I have had. Two, it's the shots that I have on the enemy Type 4 that are really, really BS. And three, this was actually my first mark on this tank. This is how long it took. The 450 Alpha gun was, in my opinion, still better than the 600 Alpha. I had better reload. People didn't expect me to have such a good reload with the 450 Alpha. They thought, oh, he just rolled low. I have enough time. I have oodles of time to take time to aim and shoot. And then I was already reloaded. And bam, that's another 450. Suddenly I'm 900 damage done. And they're like, no, it's mean. If you have fought a T-30 Tier 9 American tank destroyer, and he has the 400 Alpha gun, his reload is something of 7 or 8 seconds. That catches you out. It really does. The same with the 450 Alpha gun on the Type 4 Heavy. And that was it. That was Stalingrad. We'll be never seeing this map again. Ever. Wait, another city map. It's almost as if this is a heavily armored slow heavy tank that would excel on a city map. One, because there's very little places for someone to flank. Two, look at what I'm going to do to this T-25 pilot. The high explosive gun has been acquired, and don't mind the ammo loadout. That is for research purposes. You'll figure it out, trust me. No, if I am honest, getting the high explosive gun really does actually make the Type 4 and the Type 5 what they are. They become really dumb good tanks when you get that big stupid high explosive wielding throwing gun. The first game that I played in the Type 4 Heavy with the high explosive gun, I am not sure when that was, but I do remember that I lost any will to try and play the game serious while playing the Type 4 Heavy. I didn't have to play the Type 4 Heavy serious anymore. I didn't have to try and aim for weak spots. I didn't have to really care what I was doing. I would poke a corner, click my mouse button, pull back, and then I would check if I would have done 500 plus damage to someone or not. Even in this game here on Kharkov, there were moments that I would have not survived if it wasn't for the derp gun. Because, as I said, I don't have to aim. Even hitting in the general direction would be enough to sometimes, spoiler, kill a tank. And that spoiler is going to be realized now with this AMX 1390. I don't want him on my side anymore. I don't have the gun depression. Might as well just Amarak him. I mean, I'm actually sure if I hit the top of his tank or the wall behind him. If I would have hit the wall behind him, I would have still killed him because the splashing radius of this gun with its high explosive power is actually quite high. I have done 300 to 400 damage to tanks by just splashing next to them. The butt of a 257, 622. Technically, I would have done the same with the 600 Alpha gun, the AP gun. But with the high explosive, it feels a bit more filthy, doesn't it? It really does. The true weakness of the Type 4 Heavy is the massive side profile and the fact that the reload is about 20 seconds when using the derp gun. This tank does not fare well alone. The moment it gets surrounded, it, well, will lose health. Look at what happened when the 1390 and the T44 rushed me. I lost half my health in no time. I didn't have to reload to quickly kill them. I didn't have the armor, because they had my sights, to withstand their shots. It is the fact that it took them so long that saved me. If that 5120 not leadled right in front of me into his death and would have shot me instead, I could have died. If the 1390 came in earlier and helped his T44 buddy, I could have died. But I didn't. Say what you will about the Type 4 and the Type 5 Heavy, eventually you can kill them. And eventually you will kill them. Just not when there's 4 or 5 of them on the enemy team, because they have so much armor, health, and dumb guns that they will literally just lull through your team. I've seen this before and it will continue to happen. Sadly enough, Wargaming has added the 268 version 4, for example, which, well, I mean, it does the same as the Type 4 and the Type 5 Heavy, with the exception that I might actually have to aim sometimes with the 268 version 4. And that was it. I was surrounded, I do believe, twice while playing this tank, and I survived. I put myself into a corner. The Type 4 Heavy just withstands a storm, and it can kill whatever it wants. I still feel, personally, that the high explosive gun was not the best addition. However, playing it is dumb fun. I am going to try and skip through the very last game of the standard definition maps a bit faster, for the sole reason that it is an open map. This is not a city map. There is no constant action. If anything, I went to the wrong flank by accident. Halfway through, I pressed R and I just went driving. I thought I was a medium tank and I came back and I was like, oh, well, let's make the best of it. And this is the result. And at the same time, it worked out pretty well. Look at the south of the map. The mouse in the E75 will not be able to hold the T110E5, the M103, or whatever the third tank is down there. I'm not quite able to see. I pretty much helped my team push this flank, right? And the next thing that has to happen is that I have to drive back. The Type 4 is a lot of things, but fast is not one of them. It does things very slow. It likes to kill things very slow. It likes to drive very slow. It's a bit lazy. And lazy, yes. Effective, yes. I have learned a few things with this high explosive gun. I don't have to aim to do damage. However, if I'm facing a tank, let's say, I don't know, the motion, there's a few things that I have to remind myself of. One, it's a very heavily armored tank. Heavy armor negates high explosives. I, for some reason, hit, I think, the top of the turret or the MacLeod of the E5 and only do 300 and something damage I can't quite see. But with the stupid heavy armor tanks, like for example the Mouse and VK, there's a thing I have to keep in mind. Front of the tank, bad spot. Side of the tank, bad spot. The lower part of the turret, so the splash goes down into the engine deck. That is how you do damage. Remember, when you fire high explosive, it isn't an impact point. It is an explosion happening. You want to hit low armored parts. The lower the armored, it might actually pen before exploding. But it's an explosion. Shoot the lower part of the turret, which means that the explosion is as close to the engine deck as possible, where the armor is at that point the lowest. That is how you do damage. So it isn't always, oh lol, come around corner, shoot, pull back, do again in 20 seconds. No, it is sometimes in a tense situation where you might lose the game or win the game, useful to think about what you're doing in this tank. I'd say about 70% of the time you don't. 25% of the time think about what you're doing, and the rest of that time you spend driving. And that is my incoherent, non-official review of the Type 4 Heavy. And to be honest, you can apply this to the Type 5 as well. The only thing is, it is slightly worse matchmaking, but it is slightly better armor and has slightly better gun characteristics, and that is it. I don't quite understand why the grind is about 400,000 million experience to get to the Type 5, because it is the same tank. It is literally the Type 4, but a tiny bit better. Interestingly, that Artie thinks that I haven't noticed him, so he's not firing thinking that he isn't noticed. I'm not quite sure what he is actually doing. I mean, I know that if the grill fires that he will damage me because he's firing heat. However, I don't want the grill to fire and the Artie to fire and maybe set me on fire. I'm not quite sure what I was thinking at this point. I just wanted to stop the cap to put the pressure off of us, so the 704 doesn't feel obliged to push, even though he's auto aiming at the front of an E5. The grill just puts a shot into the front of my turret, but it doesn't matter because I survived this somehow. And we win this because the 3090 kills the T92. And that was it, kids. Tomorrow, and from now pretty much onwards, new maps. With exception of the marking mission,